David had already been married once before he met Ashley. His first wife had run off with a soldier she met at a restaurant, leaving both David and their child behind without a second thought. That betrayal left him convinced he'd never be able to love again. But life has a funny way of turning our expectations upside down. At some point, he felt that electric jolt of love all over again. Ashley was 23, fresh out of college, and struggling to find a job. At every firm or company she applied to, she was turned down for being too young and inexperienced. It stung, especially because she took her work seriously and had done plenty of practical training during summer jobs. One day, Ashley was sitting on a park bench, tears streaming down her face after yet another rejection, when David happened to walk by with his daughter. He saw Ashley crying, and his heart twisted with sympathy. He walked over to ask if she was okay. That was how their story began. Ashley explained the disastrous job interview and how potential bosses laughed at her claims of competence. She was tired of hearing the same line about needing more experience. Meanwhile, David's daughter, Alyssa, gave Ashley a little drawing she'd made earlier in a cafe. Ashley clutched that drawing like it was the most precious thing on earth. At the time, David owned a small business, a children's learning center. He realized the administrator job wasn't exactly in line with Ashley's skill set, but he still offered her a temporary position. She accepted because she had no choice. She was alone, broke, new in town, and needed anything she could get. David found himself quietly smitten with her. He'd bring her flowers at work and show up during lunch with warm pastries and fragrant coffee. After a while, he worked up the courage to ask her on a proper date. Ashley said yes without hesitation. She'd already found David appealing from that moment in the park when he approached her bench. Their connection grew steadily stronger. Within 6 months, they were living together, and a year later, David proposed. Even he was taken aback by his own decision. Not too long ago, he'd been convinced he'd never let anyone into his heart again. Time marched on. David's daughter, Alyssa, was practically all grown up. That year, she was finishing high school and planning to attend a big university in the city. Her relationship with her stepmother was wonderful. Ashley had become a true mother figure to her, something Alyssa often mentioned. Meanwhile, David's small business flourished, and Ashley continued working for him. At one point, she tried finding a position in her field of study, but realized it didn't bring her much joy. David was thrilled to have such a capable partner at his side. Recently, they had opened a brand new location for the center. Ashley stayed on as its temporary administrator, ensuring everything ran smoothly while David branched out into a new venture. For a while, the children's centers were effectively under Ashley's control. She turned out to be a great boss, though she often ended up staying late into the evening because older kids' classes, including English lessons, ran after regular hours. The English teacher, a young man named Mike, initially impressed Ashley with his skill. Soon, however, she found herself physically drawn to him. She tried to push those thoughts away. She wasn't the cheating type. But every time she saw him, her imagination conjured up explicit scenes. Mike, for his part, seemed to sense exactly what she was thinking. He'd compliment her, show interest in her life, and ask how she was doing. Then, one evening, after the last class had ended and everyone else had left, he kissed her. Ashley felt 1,000 fireworks go off in her head. It was thrilling, but also deeply shameful. She was enjoying the kiss of a man who wasn't her husband. As her budding romance with Mike heated up, her marriage with David went downhill. David was swamped with stress from expanding his new business, and his worn-down mood grated on Ashley. In her mind, she drew comparisons. David was older, exhausted, and preoccupied, whereas Mike was young, fun, and handsome. David couldn't understand why his wife had become so irritable. She had turned almost overnight from a patient, gentle spirit into a fury who picked fights for no reason. He kept trying to figure out what was going on. One day, while waiting for a partner to arrive for a meeting, David had a random thought. Why not check the security cameras at the location Ashley managed? He knew there were evening lessons scheduled, so Ashley should have been there. When he logged into the feed, he saw no one on screen, even though the session was supposed to be in progress. Confused, he switched through cameras in different rooms. When he clicked on the back storage area, he froze. Ashley was there, with Mike. David recorded the footage and dropped his head into his hands. Colors danced in the darkness behind his closed eyes as the world seemed to collapse around him. In that instant, everything made sense. Ashley's drastic change, her constant irritability, the fights. He canceled his meeting, saved the video to a flash drive, and headed home. She was already there, waiting, like any normal evening. She greeted him with a quick kiss on the cheek. David recoiled. All he could see was the footage playing on a loop in his head. That night, he couldn't bring himself to confront her. Lying awake, tossing and turning, an idea began to form. An idea that initially horrified him, but soon seemed like the perfect revenge. David decided to plan a small celebration, supposedly to toast the success of his new venture. Secretly, he arranged for a banquet hall with a TV and instructed the staff to play a certain clip from his USB stick at just the right moment. Ashley, clueless, spent the evening chatting with David, showing him pictures Alyssa had sent from college and talking about her day at work. During the celebration, David proposed a toast. He stood with a glass in hand and began a short speech. That's when the screens around the room lit up with the security footage from the children's center. Ashley burst into tears and ran out. Their divorce was bitter and prolonged. They fought over property. Ashley tried sabotaging David's deals, then swung back to begging for forgiveness. It was a messy cycle. By the time it was over, David felt a massive weight lift. Meanwhile, Alyssa lost any trace of admiration for Ashley and severed all ties with her. As for Mike, he ditched Ashley the moment he realized how complicated their affair had become. He blocked her everywhere and didn't return to work. Ashley ended up buying a small apartment, but she never seemed to recapture the happiness she had felt the day she first met David. That one betrayal cost her everything, and there was no turning back time.